That's
So
very great.
where are you?
I'm actually in Brussels, well, close to Brussels in Belgium. I'm in a
Well, it's dinner
little
time
village.
there. It's dinner time there, and I
Well,
kept you
we've
waiting. I'm
no
sorry.
worries. It's way past dinner time. Actually, the kids are in bed, so I'm quite happy to be
Okay.
here. Just
Oh,
have a
okay. All right.
conversation.
So you
Yes.
don't observe the European manner of eating dinner late then.
No, no, we eat dinner quite early, though. By 6:30 in the evening, we need to be feeding the kids, or else they'll be all over my head.
Yes, when my children were young, yes, you either feed them at the appropriate time or you pay the price.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely,
one or the
absolutely.
other. Because
And
in
I prefer
Italia,
to.
they don't get started till 7 o'clock and they don't end till 11 p.m. Oh my God. Obviously, they don't have small children, do they?
Yeah, indeed.
How
So
many children do you have, and what are
I
their
have,
ages?
I have two and one on the way. So I have a
Oh,
daughter of 9 years old and a son of four. And we recently discovered we're having a third. So
congratulations, Emmanuel.
thank you, thank
You
you.
see, you see, life is what happens while you make your plans, Emmanuel. You see, um, these young people, younger than you and me, they think they can plan it all out. Well, guess what? It always doesn't turn out exactly like you want it to.
No, it doesn't.
No,
It was a
no.
wake-up call for the both of us. It was unexpected. So yeah,
But it's going to be a true blessing, Emmanuel. I'm
I'm
an
pretty
only
sure.
child, and not by choice. My mother
Okay.
could not have any more after me, and I've really really missed having siblings very much.
Wow.
And as I've gotten older, and
Mhm.
my mother and father are now deceased, I don't have any siblings now. My wife has a number of siblings. She's one of seven, but
One of
still,
seven.
it's
Wow.
still not the same as having your own brothers and sisters. And
Absolutely.
I do
Absolutely.
miss that. So you're doing your children a favor. You really are.
Wow. Well, we always planned for two, and then the third one came along, I guess. So
Now,
yeah.
you know what my dad said? Someone said to him once, "Oh, you only have one." And, oh no, he said, "No, no, no, no. Whether you have one or five, it costs the same." And the man said, "What do you mean? It takes it all. One or five, it takes it all."
Absolutely. Takes
He
it
just
all.
meant.
Wow. I'm learning already. Well,
uh,
Larry, thank you so much. Well, to our audience, welcome to our show. This is Larry C. Johnson, a wonderful person I happened to get to know just a couple of weeks ago. Searching through wonderful profiles, I could get on to this wonderful show. And we have Larry over here. Um, who is Larry C. Johnson, right? So let's share some information. Larry C. Johnson is one of the founders and directors. Are you still a director, Larry?
I'm the founder of the Eight Principles.
Founders. So that's basically you are CEO of the8principles.com. It's a wonderful place for those seeking advice on how to raise funds and how to raise it sustainably over decades. And Larry has 18 years of experience running this place, helping thought leaders, business leaders, helping CEOs raise funds for all kinds of causes. So, Larry, is that an accurate introduction first?
Yes, it is. Just a few additions. I've been in the fund development business almost 40. I worked in four universities as
Wow.
chief advancement officer. And then I established my own firm 18 years ago, just like you said. And
Right.
the goal was to show people what's really possible when you focus on principles in philanthropy, not performance. And therein lies the difference. When people many times, if not most, when they seek funds, they go about it in the wrong way, and they wonder why they're always pushing uphill. Um, Not that it's not effort; it takes effort, but I can guarantee you, and people look at me like, "Yeah, really," that if you do it the right way, you will actually attract money. You won't be chasing it; it'll come to you. Um, I really believe that, and I've seen it.
Wow. So, Larry, 18 years. I mean, how does it feel being in this game for such a long time? How did you get here? I mean,
Well,
you've
what you're
had other
seeing
experiences. but
Well,
what led you to?
what you're seeing is our current website, which does not really reflect what it is we do. It's being rebuilt as we speak. Tune in about 6 or 8 weeks. You're going to see a totally different piece of work here. The one thing that's right, it's about people. It's not about money. What we really do is we help you create a culture of philanthropy inside of your organization. So we get you to flip the script, is what we do, so that you're attracting your investors, your donors. I ask people um, who are your customers in the nonprofit world, and often what they'll tell me is some version of the people we serve, and I'll say, "Oh no, oh no, no, those are your beneficiaries. Your customers are the people who invest in you. They're the ones that you need to be focused on, because if you do that, you'll never have to worry about your beneficiaries. There'll be more than enough money." Um, and and this may sound trite, but it's very, very true. And however you want to interpret this, if you can give your investors and would-be investors an experience or experiences, however you want to define that they cannot go out and purchase somewhere, they will literally throw money at you because
Mhm.
they can't go buy it, but it's something they want. Immanuel, I would say to you, if I were approaching you and you're philanthropically minded and I thought I might be able to engage you, I'd say, "So, Emmanuel, what is it you want to accomplish?" And I would just sit there and listen to what you had to say. And I might ask a couple of clarifying questions, but I wouldn't go any farther than that. And from that conversation, I would find out several things. What really makes you tick, what's really important to you. I mean, not, and what would really please you from a deep, heartfelt way. And once I know those things, if I'm listening, then I will know whether I can appeal to you in any way. "Well, Emmanuel, have you ever thought of this or this?" Now, notice what I'm not doing. "Emmanuel, we are a worthy nonprofit that has a lot of important things to do, and we want you to be a part of that." You see the difference? You see the
Yeah, you're
difference?
not selling
I'm not selling.
at
I'm
all.
in, I'm
No.
asked, I'm going to offer you the ability to receive true fulfillment if I know it is what it is that you really, really want. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there is a parable in the New Testament. It's in Matthew, and it's called the parable of the pearl of great price. And Jesus
Right.
says that the kingdom of heaven is like the pearl of great price. When you find it, you will do anything to acquire it because it means more to you than anything else. Every person who's philanthropically inclined has a pearl of great price. And it's an immaterial thing. It's not something they can buy or possess. It's an idea. It's a state of being. It's something that's spiritual to them. And I use that in the broadest sense possible. Um,
Hmm.
and if you can determine what that is, and I've seen it in my own career, people will shower money at you. Um, I'll give you an example. I belong to an organization um, that works with what they call UHNWIs, otherwise known as ultra high net worth individuals. That's the code, and uh,
Yes.
and these are people who have at least $1 billion in assets. Okay, billion as in boy. They are not in the W-2 world, Emmanuel. They're in a
No.
whole different universe, and yet these people, like anyone else, they have a pearl of great price they're looking for, and it ain't money. I can tell you that right now, because they can buy anything they want to buy. So that
Mm.
when a nonprofit can give them something that's not purchasable. For instance, one thing I heard recently from a nonprofit, this individual who's a CEO has connections with the film industry. He can give some of his investors the
Mhm.
opportunity to walk on the red carpet at Cannes. Now,
Wow.
you can't buy that. I don't care how much money you've got, you can't buy that. But if that's what someone really, really wants, and you can provide that, oh,
Hmm.
money's no object. Sure, we'll support you. Oh my goodness, look what you've given me, something that I've sought so long. Now, you can scale that way down to a very small gift. It doesn't just have to be a big thing, but it reflects a
Right.
totally different understanding of the paradigm of philanthropy. Flip it around completely. You know,
Wow. That's quite profound. And a very deep understanding that can only come from experience. So, in your experience, what is driving these ultra high net worth individuals? Indeed, it's not something that money can buy, but what is it?
It's
Because not
personal.
all of them are religious or spiritual
That
in
well,
many ways.
everyone's spiritual to a point. If you're
Mm,
philanthropic, there's little s. It may not be, you may not be organized religion, but there's something in your soul that's craving more than what you have. All right, that's what I mean when I say spiritual. It's
mm,
not material. It's something that can't be purchased. You see, and
yeah.
what I was going to say about that is that you asked me what's driving people. Human connection. I'll give you a perfect example. In my own experience, this was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I was working
Mm.
for a university who one of their alumni happened to be one of the original five founders of a little company called Intel. Okay, and
Okay.
uh, and he lived in Northern California, and I would
Hmm.
go and visit him periodically. He was old enough to be my father, Immanuel, at the time,
Oh.
and this is 25 years ago. And we got to know one another over time. I was just really fascinated with getting to know this man, what made him tick,
Mm.
what was important to him. And at one point, he says to me, "You know, Larry, I'm kind of concerned about giving you a significant gift." Now, significant for him had at least seven zeros attached to it. Okay.
Seven
So,
zero. That's nice.
and so when you hear something like that as a fundraiser, especially in higher education, certain predictable kind of images come up in your mind. Number one, did the president insult him? Did he read something in the student newspaper? Well, what is driving this? You want to know.
Mm.
So I just said, so, well, what concern is that? Here's what he said to me. I'm afraid if I do that, you won't come back and visit me. Hello.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
he didn't need money. He wanted to have
He just
contact with
wanted,
me,
absolutely.
and he wanted to be able to engage with me. And it was sort of like a father-son relationship. And I was
Mhm.
delighted to be a part of that. It was totally guileless, and I was willing to guide his gift wherever it needed to go. I
Wow.
wasn't there. I wasn't doing the proverbial grab and go, excuse me, or
Mm.
selling him a program. Um, the largest gift I've ever personally solicited was $20 million. That was 20 years ago. Um,
Wow.
and the individual that gave it made his fortune, and it was indeed a fortune, in the sciences. It was
Mm.
given to endow a music program. Who would have
Wow.
thought that? You see?
That's
But you
amazing.
have to ask, you have to listen.
Ask and you shall receive.
Ask and you shall
It's
receive.
old as time, that one,
Yeah.
huh?
Uh, Another one is by losing your life, you gain it. See, biblical wisdom. See, if you don't try to gain it, you'll if you try to gain it, you'll lose it. If you just give it up, you'll gain it. It's fascinating
Mm.
how it works. There are certain truisms in the world that
Mm.
operate because it's a part of the way the world's structured. But I love what I do. What I'm doing now is a little different. Um, what I've discovered that most nonprofits don't have the right culture in their organization to really benefit from this kind of thinking. And so we have an embeddable platform that allows them to do that. So we train someone inside, and then they go and train everybody else. So it's a
Wow.
culture flipping is what we do. I mean, we cover some of the mechanics, but it's really about the way you're thinking. Um,
Mm.
because and that way, here's the other thing: my first piece in higher fundraising was not working for an institution, but working for one of the legacy consulting firms, or what I called the dollars per second model. The McKinsey model. It's like,
Mhm.
and so. And when I say that word, you know what I mean, that there are only a very small sliver of the market that can afford that kind of help, you see,
Correct.
dollars per second. And but what they were telling their very well-heeled clients was something that anyone could benefit from. A very small organization, because it's mindset. It's not just hiring a lot of high-powered fundraisers and spending a lot of money on technology. Um, in fact, most nonprofits spend way too much money on technology. Um, you know, and our technologists, our firms, they love to sell them that stuff, Emmanuel.
Hmm.
I like to say, and it's not that it doesn't have a purpose; it does, but generally speaking, they're overbuying. They're buying Ferraris when they really need a lawnmower. Um, I mean,
Well, that's the strange part about fundraising, isn't it? I mean, and this is, and you mentioned culture, so I'd like to come back to culture because
mhm,
we have had, at least in the United States, and I would say the Western world, a cultural shift, a cultural battle of sorts for the last, I would say, 8 years since the current, let's say, president came into
mhm,
power. There's been a lot of back and forth, and there's a lot of negative stereotypes that have come on for non-governmental organizations. Everybody's suspicious of them now. And maybe they should be because there's a lot of them that are funding all kinds of different strange things, so strange which are not necessarily Christian, not necessarily rooted in Judeo-Christian values.
mhm,
So, I mean, fundraising, something like a Planned Parenthood could still do fundraising.
mhm.
I mean, all these organizations. And so it seems to me that there's this heated battle that's going on, and you get to see it almost every day. It's happening at the campuses, it's happening at ICE facilities. It's a cultural clash. And do you think what is changing in philanthropy given this cultural state at this moment that we live through? How
Well,
do you
that's
see
a big
this
question.
landscape shifting?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, philanthropy, the meaning of that word, it comes from two Greek words, anthropos um, anthropos, and oh, there's two of them. Anyway, I'm having a brain. Philanthropy, yes, philos anthropos, and that means literally for the love of mankind, because philios is brotherly love in Greek, anthropos is the generic for mankind. So it's literally. So did anyone say money? No. Okay.
No.
So first of all, it's for the love of mankind. So then, by design, it is voluntary. It's something
Yeah.
you do because it expresses who you are. Okay. We have a whole class of nonprofits who have become way too dependent on what I'd call some sort of constitutional socialism. They're taking a lot of money from taxpayers through government grants. And the problem with that is it's a Faustian bargain because the minute
Mhm.
things change, that money gets cut off. Uh, and I'm looking at this now. There's some nonprofits who've become way too dependent on that kind of funding, and now with the
Mhm.
current administration, it's being pulled back. So that
Mhm.
okay. The other problem with that kind of funding is that it tends to be, um, what am I saying? Although there's a lot of there's a lot of filing and accounting and reports and all that kind of thing, it really in some ways is unaccountable to the values of the people that give it. You see what I'm saying? That's
That's
the
an
difference.
important statement.
That's important. So that there's a market for philanthropy like there's a market for anything. Okay.
True.
And I can tell you that only about 15% of the total pool that's available is being tapped in any way. And you might say, well, why? Well, because they're not going about it the right way. But let's talk about the shift here. I mean, you're seeing a real clash in values. Um,
Mhm.
and what I say to people is if you're approaching it from a value based point of view, you will experience the success in the market that is due for your cause, whatever it might be. You mentioned
Mhm.
Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, for instance, was very much into government subsidies for a long, long, long time. Now that's been removed. Well, here's a couple of things that have happened at Planned Parenthood. Well, the bottom
Mhm.
fell out for one thing, but the people who really want to support that have come forth. And
Yeah.
although I don't agree with Planned Parenthood myself, I agree with the idea of people supporting what they want to support. And so
Correct.
it makes the
They have a
market,
choice.
it doesn't, by removing the government support, it doesn't distort the market. It makes the market more natural, what it should be. And same thing with public broadcasting or anything else that's there. And uh, or social systems. Another thing is, there are people who will say, well, if the government's going to do it, I'm just going to step back. I'm not going to, I'm going to do that. So but I can tell you that there are donors, especially once they get to a certain level, the public environment has become so toxic, is that they want to step back. They don't want to get involved because they know what it means. They don't want to target on their back. So that some of the giving at the highest levels, and I'm speaking from experience, are strictly people who want to do this anonymously. I mean,
True.
they are very, very intent on that. In fact, I'm a member of an organization right now that represents UHNWIs. And I can
Mm.
tell you, these people are not motivated by taxes, up or down. They're
No.
they're not motivated by recognition. They don't want to be known at all. But they have certain values. And this particular group that I'm working with are very concerned about Western civilization. And although they may
Mm.
not be Christians per se, they definitely see the positive impact of Judeo-Christian culture, and that's what they support. But they don't want a target on their back, so that um, you can see. I was talking to someone this morning via email, and they're talking about, oh, people are not giving as much, and blah 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 blah. Well, a couple of things. I got to answer this person. First of all, most of these organizations have dysfunctional fundraising programs, so they're not reaching out to people in the right way. Number one. Number two, they're reaching out to a very small percentage of their total market. As an example, in this country, in the United States, only about 7% of all the
Wow.
philanthropic dollars are given by an organized foundation.
Only seven. Yeah.
Only seven. About almost 90% are given by individuals in one way or the other, either directly, through death, through a DAF, or through a family foundation. But they're all controlled
Mm.
by individuals, you see. Corporate giving is about 5%, 6%. Um, so, and then this particular person I have to answer, oh, all the foundations are feeling overwhelmed. Well, I'm sure they are, because a lot of these people, that's all they know, and they go right to that. And now that a lot of these government grants have been cut, I'd like to tell people, yes, I understand that, but however, philanthropy is never a solution to a budget crisis. All right, it's never a solution to that.
No.
Philanthropy is a planned response. If you've got the pipeline in place, and well, let me give you a good example. Back during um, the pandemic, when everyone was shut in. Well, a lot of these organizations are very dependent on what I call transactional fundraising, events, quid pro quo, these kind of things, especially certain types of organizations are really dependent on these things. Well, if you can't have
Mm.
a public event, what are you going to do? All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
a lot of
yeah.
these organizations began to hurt, very seriously hurt by loss of revenue. The ones that already had a relational program in place saw their giving go up. They just sailed right through,
Oh,
you
yeah.
see. And so it's depending on the kind of programming that you were doing. Yeah, if you were depending on that big gala, well, you could be hurting big time. Um,
It's true.
so yeah, but you're seeing this shift. But if it's allowed to play out, I can tell you that philanthropy is a very leveling force. It's a force that represents the broader base of what's happening. I mean, I didn't know that much about Turning Point until Mr. Kirk was assassinated. I knew of it. I'd seen him on
Mm.
television a couple of times, but I didn't really know that much about it. But since
Mm.
I've learned into it, I mean, their fundraising has gone through the roof,
Absolutely.
and because they've hit a nerve, they've
Yeah.
tapped into a market that is responding, and 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 then and I saw him. It was so funny. I first saw him on TV, and see, this is my old man prejudice here.
Mm.
I saw him going, boy, young man, you can have a suit that fit better than that. That was my first response. Why don't you get a decent fitting suit? Because somehow that influenced his credibility to me, you see. Well, it wasn't 6 or 8 months later, and I see him, I'm going, well, you guys thought he was dressing you now. You're dressed, you're ready for prime time. But how he presented himself to people had changed. The message didn't change, but
No,
how he presented himself. And in a broader sense, some nonprofits, they get tangled up in their own underwear, so to speak. They're not presenting themselves in a way that would be appealing to their potential investors. Um, was that an
indeed.
answer? I hope.
No, that was a fantastic answer. And indeed, the culture is shifting and it will play it out. But I think the true goal, and I would like to touch on the point that you mentioned, that it goes beyond party lines,
Mm-hmm.
philanthropy, and it has to, because you need the common good to continue to happen.
Yes.
And we saw the same things during COVID. I'm a church member. We go to church every Sunday, and we had the same issues during COVID. We are quite transactional, so we do a lot of events. We still maintain that weekly after church coffee, that weekly or monthly lunches. We make sure that we are constantly engaging with our people, and we have always had steady uh, long term, even during crisis moments. We've always been able to raise funds,
Mm-hmm.
including the Anglican Church of St. Boniface in Antwerp, which was renovated. It's a landmark in the city of Antwerp. That's where I go, and it has been now been renovated, restored. So it's a beautiful building. If you're ever in Belgium, you're welcome to visit, and it's a wonderful place. But yeah, they raised over €1.5 million with the help of government grants, but also from people across the UK, the Netherlands, because there are a lot of Anglicans
Yes.
in and
Mm-hmm.
around Belgium. Yeah, it was a tough time. We had to go door to door, get funds all over the place, but we did that. And it took some very courageous people constantly working on other people the whole time to get it done. Um, but we now have a church that's good for another 100 years. So
There you
that's
go.
really fun. Yeah,
And it brought you closer together as a community too. Um,
absolutely.
I mean, the
Absolutely.
money was really a vehicle.
No,
Um,
it's true.
I tell people that money is fuel. That's what it is. And you can use it for
Real.
good or for not. And the other thing is, money, if you would suddenly acquire it, doesn't change you. It just makes you more of what you already are. So if
True.
you're a generous, kind person who sees the bigger community, you'll be more generous and more kind. If you're a jerk, you'll be a bigger jerk. All right. It's just got more money to do it with, you see. And that's the other thing is that people think, oh, no, money doesn't change you. It just, I'll give you a good example. All right. And I know if you asked her, she would tell you this. The lady that made the arrangements for this
Mhm.
podcast, her name is Danielle. Now
Mhm.
she grew up in the upper Midwest and she's a delightful woman. And if you asked her, she'd tell you that she's a product of the trailer park. Now you know what the trailer park is in this country, okay?
Okay.
So, and she's come a long way. She's worked with me almost 10 years. And when she
Wow.
was first working for me, I said, Danielle, I want you to read the Wall Street Journal every day. And I still take it in the paper edition, by the way, Immanuel.
Yeah.
So I asked, I want you to read that. That's all I want you to do. Okay. Well, then after about 6 months, I said, so what have you learned? And here was her response: mo money, mo problems. She discovered that money does not solve your problems. No. And that uh, from her perspective and her environment, everyone thought money did solve your problems. Well, it doesn't. And she figured that out. Oh, wow. What an enlightenment. Good grief. And so that's the reason I say that philanthropy is not about money. It's about what you do with what you have and how you interact with other people. So now what happens, and I think what's happened in the community in which I live, they've so gone headlong into transactional fundraising that they've conditioned their donor base to think in transactional terms and to think in terms of low sites, because there's plenty of money in this community, plenty of money, but they've lowballed it to a lot of the people that, and then of course if you're going to a gala and you buy something, you're not being philanthropic. It's quid pro
No.
quo. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's true. Wow, that's really an enlightening conversation. I'm sure the audience is absolutely loving it. I have another question about the upcoming changes. Do you see during the midterms, do you see Americans coming back together a bit more? Because it's an ugly process going on at this
Mm-hmm.
moment. There's a lot of
Yeah.
division, a lot of polarization. How is that affecting you? I know you're in Boise. It's a red state. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
bother you much. You don't have ICE facilities being raided, so
No,
I
no, we
don't
don't.
think
Um,
no.
well,
Yeah,
as you said, Idaho is a red state, but it's red in a certain way. It's primarily a libertarian state, which means government out of my face. So their libertarians can be, they're usually, politically conservative. They could be socially liberal, but
true,
it's everyone manages, we all live, it's live and let live here. Okay. That's
true.
really what the attitude is. I think, and government has a light hand here too.
Mm,
So, there isn't government telling you how you should. There's no social engineering here in the state. That's a big part of it. People can live their own lives the way they want to live them,
mm,
as a result of that. The one thing that, I mean, I don't like everything Trump does. I don't think anyone does.
of course
However,
not.
I will say this: he's a very clever man. He's very smart, and as you can see today, as we're recording this, he's managed to achieve something that has stymied others for 65, 70 years: peace in
Absolutely.
the Middle East. Well, that says something right there. Okay. And although I've not met him personally, I know people who have, and they all say the same thing to me. When he meets you in person, he's very focused on you, and he's asking you what you think. And the wheels are turning in his head. Now, he's a brash New York City real estate guy. That's who he
True.
is. Now, if you know anything about that business, it is a, you know bare knuckle business, and
Absolutely.
that's what he grew up in. And the other thing that people don't seem to understand, he's a New Yorker, but he grew up in Queens, Immanuel,
Yeah.
and those people who live in Manhattan loathe the people who live in Queens. Okay, and it's like this go, and they don't, if you don't live there, you don't get the dynamics of what's going on. I remember I
Mm.
told my wife, no, he's from Queens. That's why people in Manhattan can't stand him. Oh, well, really? I mean, and all the liberals live in Manhattan. There you go. But so anyway, that uh, I am glad that we're seeing more of the respect for law and order. I'm
Absolutely.
glad that we are respecting our borders. Is there going to be mistakes made? Of course there are.
Of
Are there going to
course.
be missteps? It's sometimes, taking a meat cleaver to something that requires a scalpel is not the best tool. Uh, I get that.
True.
I get that. Um,
Yes.
but I think we have entrenched power structures that I think need to be dismantled on both sides of the aisle,
True.
and that they need to. Well, I'm a big advocate for term limits, and I know there are pluses and minuses to that. But it would
Mm.
tend to. The other thing that I think would help is something that's been suggested. He suggested it in his first term, and then hopefully they're going to try to make it real in the second term. Is taking some of these government agencies and dispersing them across the United States, so there isn't this nexus of everything in 56 square miles. All right,
Absolutely.
so that they're in touch with everyday Americans.
All
Um,
over the place. Yeah.
and for instance, environment in Texas or someplace else that has this, or the energy, someplace that generates energy, that they see the the interior out west someplace where I live. You see, and
Mm.
they see how people live here, what their issues are, what their problems are. They're close to the people, and I think if nothing else, I hope the era of self-proclaimed experts is over. All right.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
that
It's a funny story, but in 2015, I was one of the only ones in the family, and that's it's not that I had any particular interest of Donald Trump. It just happened to happen after 2015. He walks down the escalator. I was like, hey, Donald Trump, I know him from, Home Alone, Billionaire, all those things, but never really went into his personality. And we don't in Europe, we never saw Celebrity Apprentice, so I didn't have much knowledge about him. But
oh, you
then
were missing out. That was quite a show.
I know I rewatched it later, but so what I discovered after 2015, especially during his first campaign announcement, like okay, I'm throwing my hat in. I said, oh my God, okay, let's this is when he said something about rapists and Mexicans and stuff like this, and immediately CNN, BBC, they were all playing these clips on repeats everywhere. And I said, okay, did he really say that? Okay, let me see the whole video. And I said, it's a bit dicey. I get it. It's a bit harsh. But he said it. He does have the balls to say things that people are thinking. Maybe
Yes,
not in the most extreme way, but somehow this guy of I don't know 79 years old is able to connect a billionaire from Manhattan, well, from Queens, as you
from
said,
Queens.
from Queens, and he's able to pull a crowd and speak to them like a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
And and I then started to pay attention to his rallies and I listened to a lot of his rallies and I said, okay, there's a mantra to a way he expresses himself. There's a lot of I will get this done, I will get a lot of promises being made. And I said, wow, he's really making a lot of promises. Can he actually keep them? That was one of when you have someone claiming I get to do this, this, and this, and this, and you think, wow, you're 71. When you get into power, if you get in at all, because you have Hillary Clinton, and I said, but this guy is going to win. And I saw the crowds, and I said, but nobody believed it, and I said he's going to win, and he did. And I said, whoa, that's crazy.
Well, you know,
They were having a meltdown in Europe.
yes.
I couldn't
Well,
believe
just
it.
before the first election, apparently Bill Clinton had done a tour of Wisconsin and Michigan, and he saw all these Trump signs. And at that time, his wife had not been to either of those states to campaign.
Correct.
And he said, Hillary, you better go up there. I saw all these signs up there. And she did, oh, no, 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 no. Well, she lost both states. And that cooked her in the election. So,
Absolutely.
but to answer your question in terms of saying it like it is, he has a history of delivering on his promises before he ever got into politics. An example, have you've been to New York? All right.
Not to New York yet, to
Okay.
Chicago
Well,
a few
New York
years ago.
City, the
Yes,
jewel of Manhattan is Central Park, a beautiful park. It was designed professionally designed by a landscape architect in the middle of the 19th century. It's really, really quite unique. An urban
correct.
park that large. It's really a gorgeous
True.
park. Okay. Well, in that park is an ice rink that they use. Well, a few years ago, it broke. All right. Well, the city of New York spent 9 years and $8
Trying
million trying to fix it.
Yeah,
Here's what Trump said: I'll fix it, but I got to have total control and I'll do it. In other words, he didn't have to worry about using city employees or the unions or anything else. Okay, but he fixed it in 18 months for $1.5 million.
yeah,
You see, and
yes,
and then of course now he said he's going to solve the problem in the Middle East. Well, apparently he's done it. Uh,
yes. He's trying. I mean, and that's the thing. He has all these ambitions, and when I see one of these, uh, you see, it's a completely different mindset. It's completely different. And when people say, "Oh, he's an idiot," he's a fool, he's a taco president, they have all these names. I said, "What planet do you live on?" There are literally 4,000 billionaires on planet Earth, and he's one of them. And it takes a certain type of mindset to get there.
yes, it
And
does. Yes. Um, you know, the I was going to say about that is here's what it is. He challenges the conventional power structures and he challenges the conventional wisdom. And people don't like to be challenged, especially
No,
powerful people.
and
They really don't like it. They get really annoyed. Okay. And
it's true.
especially if he's telling them essentially, and he's so brash.
Yeah.
They're low IQ. I mean, what, they're low IQ. What
He's
do they do? What?
hilarious.
And you've heard him say that. Oh, she's low IQ. and
Yeah.
and and he does it. But think about this. First of all, I don't know if you know this or not, but he's a graduate of VMI, Virginia Military Academy, and a graduate of
Mhm.
Penn. All right. So you're not exactly stupid right there. Okay. And then,
No,
yes, he had some inherited wealth, but he turned it into an empire. All right. And
exactly.
he's been successful in real estate. He's been successful in the hospitality industry. He's been successfully what do they call that? Real TV, you know. And so one thing that gave him an advantage in political life, very comfortable in front of a television, very comfortable
True.
in front of a crowd. You know, he knew how to do that. You know, when he was first running, Emmanuel, he didn't even use teleprompters. No,
Absolutely.
he just started talking, you know, and of course that drove the conventional the usual suspects absolutely mad
Absolutely.
because he'd
And it
say stuff
was,
that was kind of like over the top, and some of it was to get your attention, you know.
no, he's an amazingly capable media. He plays them like a fiddle.
Yeah.
Let's be real about it.
Well, yeah, and of course, what's so funny is the mainstream media. Once he was out of the picture, when in the Biden administration, all the ratings for them and the advertising revenue went way down
Everything went,
because there was nothing to talk about.
there was nothing to talk about.
Nothing to
Absolutely.
talk about. And now that he's back in there, it's like, oh wow, let's go for it. You
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Um,
And yes, he does deserve credits and for a lot of things. I mean, there were a lot of cultural extremes that were setting in, especially during the Biden administration, having, a lot of depravity at the White House, cocaine, and all these different scandals.
what's a
Like,
woman, Emmanuel? Do we know what a woman is?
sorry.
I said, what's a woman, Emmanuel? Do we know what a woman is?
Absolutely. So
I
that's
think
that one. Yeah.
I think you and I do because we're married to them.
Yes,
All
we're
right.
married. We know all too well what
Yes,
it's
yes.
for.
Oh, yes. You know, and
Yes.
if we're smart, we give our wives all their due too. Yes.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I couldn't be having this conversation peacefully tonight if she wasn't watching the babies. For sure. No, but the amazing part of all this is that he deserves a lot of credit for for trying at least to tackle very complex problems because
Yes.
these are not easy problems.
No, they're not.
And taking responsibility for something at that age when he could just be chilling on a golf course or
Mm-hmm.
traveling to Bahamas or going to one of his golf courses in Scotland. I don't know wherever he goes. I mean, he has enough wealth to give it all away and make it back again. That's the funny thing about I've learned a lot from him because of the fact that it's true that he made a lot of money, but he lost it all too. And that's
A
the
couple
fun
of
part.
times. A couple of
Yeah.
times.
And
See,
that's
he's not motivated by money, Emmanuel.
correct.
He's not motivated by money. And that's what
No,
drives these people nuts because he cannot be bought.
true.
You know, he doesn't take a salary as president.
He still doesn't. Yeah.
He still doesn't take a salary. And these multi-million-dollar settlements he's getting from people, he's putting
Oh
it
my
back.
God.
He's putting it back into to America's 250th anniversary celebration. He's not taking any of the
Absolutely.
money personally. You
No.
know, he puts it
No.
back into there.
Yes. And I give him props for really trying to end the war and he has his days. It's 80-20, right? You can't appreciate everything that the guy does. Of course, he has some issues where he's a bit harsh on India at the moment, for
Yes,
example, sanctions and
yes,
things like this. I, as an Indian, say, why are you doing this? It's not necessary. But okay, they know something that I don't, so I'm not
well,
gonna.
and the week after that, he's best bros with Modi again. Yeah.
Well,
Now, now,
sometimes
where in India did you grow up?
Well, I grew up, I'm actually from a place called Hyderabad, which is in the
Yes.
south. And
Hmm.
then, well, we lived there till I was 10, after which we traveled to Mumbai because my dad used to work in the State Bank of India.
Okay.
And we lived in Mumbai for 7 years, and then he got promoted to work in the State Bank of India, but in Antwerp, in the Diamond District.
Okay. Well,
Um,
I was in India in early 23. I was there three
wow.
weeks. I was there talking to fundraising groups. We were in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and then my personal favorite, they were able to arrange for us to take the narrow gauge rail train up to
Oh, wow.
Shimla. And so
Fantastic.
I've been in Shimla, the foothills of the Pradesh.
Himalaya.
It
Wow,
it
that's
was a
really
wonderful trip. I really love the Indian people very much, it was just they delightful. We had a great time.
yeah. India is a beautiful country, and it will shape its own future, as they say. It's just too big with too many people. They have their own dreams and aspirations. And
Mhm.
yes, I'm curious to see how that evolves. Coming back to philanthropy, we know Donald Trump. I mean, I'm taking Donald Trump as an example, high net worth individual, highly capable, still kicking ass every day, right? With all that energy. How do you sustain that long term mindset? Because life is not rosy. There's death, there's disease, there's health issues, there's um, bankruptcies, there's you name it, death in the family. There's all kinds of stresses that come through life. How does
Mhm.
one think long term? Of course, prayer is important in my life. I think that's very important. But what else do you think, Larry, is really important to have a state of mind that sustains you for a long time, to stay focused on your vision, but also to stay focused on giving? Because to receive, you must also find a way to give, in my opinion.
Well, and what I would say is the people who do this well are those who have a calling and a vision, however you'd like to define that, that's bigger than they are. You see, it supersedes who they are. Mr. Trump, the president, has a vision, something far greater than what he's been able to achieve. I mean, he sees himself as being a cosmic player, is how he sees himself, and that he's decided to
I'm
pursue
sure he
that.
does.
He does. Well,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have to do this. There's no material need for him to do any of this. Um,
No.
but he sees himself in bigger terms. Well, let's go back 50, 60 years, 70 years. Let's look at Winston Churchill. There's a man.
Mm.
When he became premier of England, Great Britain, he was 65 years old and he had a
Correct.
heart condition. Yeah, he was not the best of health. And let's just say he was at a time where there were singular pressures on him. Okay,
Right.
he half expected the Wehrmacht to show up at 10 Downing Street any day, and uh, and yet he stood firm, and he had that vision, and he was willing to fight for it against a lot of opposition in the Parliament, in leadership. He had real enemies who were always trying to subvert him, but he had that passion that went beyond just normal living. And I think whether you're responding from a personal faith or something not quite as directed, it's something that's a fire that's within you. It's like,
Mm.
I want to see this happen. I want to do this. And it's like, do you know who Jordan Peterson is? You know who Jordan Peterson is, don't
Yeah,
you?
absolutely.
Okay, well,
I
he
went to see him in Antwerp. He was here a couple of years ago. I went to see him.
okay, well, and I've seen him
Uh,
here too in Idaho. Well,
yeah.
one thing he says, he's done a lot of studies in the Old Testament, and I think it's fascinating. Is that he says that God in the Old Testament comes to you as the spirit of adventure. I'm going to
Mm.
offer you an adventure. And if you take me up on it, here's what you're going to get. And he uses, for instance, the example of Abraham, who was
True.
quite a bit older, living a comfortable life, a wealthy man, and he says, you know, Abraham, I got a deal for you. If you'll come over here to this other country over here that you don't know anybody or anything, you just pick up everything and go, here's what you're going to get. You're going to have descendants that are as numerous as the star of skies. You're going to be known forever. You're going to change the course of history. All of these things will be yours if you will do what I tell you to do, if you'll take me up on this, the challenge. And I think everyone, and this has been the case in my own life, Immanuel, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, you know, God comes to us as the voice of adventure. Now we can say, oh no, I'm just going to sit on my couch and watch football. Okay, fine. And a lot of people do that, just that.
True.
Okay. They live totally what I call consumptive lives. All right. And, but if
True.
you respond to that call to adventure, you know, it kind of feeds on itself. Um, uh, Peterson would say there are four things that motivate a man: money, power, sex, honor. Four things.
True.
And he
Right.
does, he and this guy's name, Arthur Brooks, who has this introductory class at MIT Management School.
Mm.
He does this little exercise. Okay, there are four. Of those four, which would you give up first? Not that you wouldn't have any of that, but that wouldn't be your focus. And then one by one, he goes down the list till there's only one left. And they say
Mm.
that is your primary motivator right there. And you might want to do that for yourself sometime. Money, power, honor, sex.
Yes.
So,
It's a wonderful exercise. I'm sure everyone is already aware of Jordan Peterson. He's notorious. He's also known to make the libs mad.
of course, he
And
does.
we always give him the props because he did. He's living out his vision and he's working through his work.
Mm-hmm.
And we really have to give thanks for his timeliness because he seemed to appear at the right time. It's strange how these characters that we know of Donald Trump, Jordan Peterson, they seem to appear at these strange times that we go through. And and I can see how that's almost, it's God has a sense of humor. It just comes to me when I see Donald Trump. I see God has a sense of
Oh,
humor,
he
right?
does.
Yeah,
He does. Let me just sort of tickle the ivories a little bit here. Let's get some things going. And you see, Trump has a real sense of humor. He really
that's true.
does. Um, and he has this ability to coin these satirical, somewhat derisive nicknames for everyone. You know,
Oh
what is it?
yeah,
What was the
Pocahontas,
one for Ted Cruz?
Blind Ted.
Lion Ted, and then there's Pocahontas, um,
Yeah. Oh,
and uh,
brilliant.
and I mean, and they all fit to a certain degree. I mean, he takes one
Absolutely.
journal thing and just blows it up. You know, so if he were artistic, you know, he could, you know what he could do? He could do political cartoons. You know how they're
Yeah,
always they're over the top. He could do cartoons if he were a cartoonist. Um, so that he could.
amazing.
Well, I'm just, you know, and by the way, people say, oh, well, he's not holy enough. He's not at this. He's not that. Well, I just want to remind these people that throughout history, God has consistently used imperfect people to accomplish his goals. All right, consistently. Nebuchadnezzar, you know, other people that were, hold on, I got to get, all right. So he uses ungodly people all the time. The Pharaoh, Nebuchadnezzar, Herod, who he was able to use them to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. Even well, even if you look at the person of King David, we're told, was a man after God's own heart, and yet he was an egregious sinner, um,
Absolutely.
an adulterer, a murderer, um, and yet, yes, God forgave him for those things, but he still had to suffer the consequences of them. You know, but
That's true.
the God still was able to use him very effectively. Uh, so yeah, and we were all imperfect people, one kind or the other. Um, so, so
That's
were you born Anglican?
No, I was actually born into Orthodox Syrian Christian. So
Oh,
in the
really?
south, yeah, yeah. So we're an Orthodox family. We're
Wonderful. Well, you know, Emmanuel, I was I was Anglican, but in this country, the Anglican Church has jumped off the left side of the planet. So what I do here, I go to a Nazarene church, which is a low church, kind of Arminian theology. However,
okay.
if I could, I would join one of the Orthodox congregations because
Oh wow.
the liturgy of St. John Christensen is, in my view, the purest ancient Christian liturgy. And but you
Mhm.
see, I'm not Syrian, I'm not Greek, I'm not Russian, I'm not Egyptian, I'm not any of those things, and so it kind of limits me because they have strong cultural frameworks that they operate
Yeah,
within,
it's true. It does.
and
They do.
so and I mean I'd love the dancing and the food, but that's about as far as it goes with being Greek. Okay, and but I if I had a choice, if it were just that, I would be Orthodox. That
Wow.
makes me feel closest to my Lord is the Orthodoxy.
Absolutely.
Um,
Wow. That's
so
a thank you for the revelation. It's fantastic.
so
Yes, no,
so
we go to the Anglican Church because it's the only well-known English church in Antwerp in this region. And when we came to Belgium, my father discovered it through another Indian gentleman who used to work there, who used to work in the same area and knew of that church. And so, yeah, I've been at that church for a long time. That's where my kids were baptized and so
well,
forth.
well that's so is it suitably high church, smells and bells, as they say?
Yes, smells and bells. We have
Mm-hmm.
a lovely Paris priest now. Our former priest passed away, unfortunately. He had Parkinson's, but he was a lovely man too,
Okay. Oh, I'm
and it was
just
a good time. For
um,
the last 70, well, 25 years, I've been going to the same church, yes. But we
you know,
also go to a Catholic church where my wife is quite active. So her
okay.
mom
Well,
opens the door to that church, yeah.
I have a couple of Catholic friends who are trying their best to convert me. And and I said to one, I said, "Well, Ryan, am I gonna would I have to be rebaptized?" No, no, no. And the difference, you know, and you know, people have their own points of view on this, but um, I mean, I could probably become Catholic, but the two things or three things that sort of get in the way for me would be number one, the celibacy of the priest. Um, uh,
Mhm.
and then the what I would call the infallibility of the pontiff, and
Mhm.
then also the veneration of Mary. Those are the three
Mhm.
that were kind of like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But everything
Mhm.
else, and of course, Ryan's real quick to say, you know, we can work on that, Larry. We can work on that. And he's a fine man. He runs an organization called His Way at Work. And what
His way
they
at work.
do is they work with business owners like myself to consecrate their businesses to Christ, and they do primarily Catholics, but they do Protestants as well. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
wow.
an interesting guy. You might have him on your podcast. A real cool guy, actually. His way is
Okay, wow.
Ryan Foley is his name. Uh,
Well, if he's interested, you can put me in touch. You know, I'm always looking to have fun conversations,
well,
right?
I
Where,
will actually. I think you'd find him delightful. Really a good
okay,
guy
great.
too. I'll do an email introduction to you. I'll make a note of that now before I forget it. Um,
And Larry, do you have children?
I have three daughters. They're grown.
Oh wow.
Mary, Elizabeth, and Christiana Grace. Mary is a faculty member at Emory University in Atlanta,
Oh
and
wow.
Elizabeth is controller of a I think it's a German finance firm in Manhattan.
Oh
And
wow.
then my youngest daughter is a recent graduate of University of Michigan Law School, and
Nice.
she's a what do you call those things, an associate at a Manhattan law firm. Now,
Oh
I'd prefer that both of those girls got the hell out of Manhattan, but that's not my decision to make. Um, but I think my youngest is discovering that being an attorney, especially a junior associate, is not saving the world. It's spending
no.
85 hours a week filling out paperwork. So
Mhm.
we'll just see if she stays in the law or not. We'll just see.
Well, at least they'll have a great career. Lawyers in America, there's always
Hmm.
work. There's
There's
always
always
work.
work. Yeah, especially yeah, if you're in the right area, there's a lot of work. Um, so yeah,
Indeed. And Larry, do you have grandchildren too at this
I have
at this?
one. He's
Oh wow,
coming up on
congratulations.
4. Um,
Four. Okay,
yeah,
great.
coming up on
Wow.
4. Yeah, it's he's married. He's Mary's son.
Okay.
She's married to a naturalized Colombian.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yes, and she
And
met
so
him
do
when
you
she.
speak Spanish as well, or do they
Are
speak
you
Spanish?
kidding? I can barely
Okay.
speak English. Okay, I barely mastered that. Um, but no, I don't speak Spanish. Um,
Okay,
uh,
that's great.
but yeah, um, yeah, he's 4, and she met my son-in-law when she was abroad teaching at an expat school, and that's how
Okay,
she met
wow.
him. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And you get to spend time with your grandson.
not as much as I would like. They live in
Okay.
Atlanta, and I live here.
Atlanta is far away. Yeah. Yeah.
Atlanta's it's a 4.5 hour flight direct
Oh
from
yeah.
Boise. So
America is large.
America is large. You're not
It's a
kidding.
large.
Uh, people
It's
come here
true.
and they say, "Oh, I want to do San Francisco, New York, and Washington." And when no, you're not going to do.
No,
No, sorry, no,
no.
no, no, no. It's it's not jumping from Brussels to Paris. Sorry.
No, it's not. It's not. It really isn't. And it's actually a shame. I think America still has amazing landscapes. And we spent time in the Chicago, Michigan, Indiana
Yes,
last time around. This was, I think, 2014. Barack was still the president. It was a lovely place. The people were lovely in Chicago. We didn't hear about any of the gang violence at that moment,
because
but later we.
you weren't on the South Side, Emmanuel. You weren't on the South Side. My grandparents used to live in Chicago many years ago.
Oh,
They lived in Lincoln Heights, which is on the northern side of the city, and
mhm.
the South Side has always been troublesome. And in the last 50 years, it's just gotten terrible. It's terrible. You just kind of drive
Exactly.
around it. I mean, so the violence is has typically been pretty localized.
Mhm.
It's in one particular neighborhood. But let me tell you, you come to U.S. to America again, come out to Boise, be my guest, bring a family.
Oh, absolutely. I will definitely do
Yep,
that.
please
Larry,
do.
yeah, that's so. And if you're ever in Belgium, as you know, cold Europe, frigid Europe, as the Russians say at the moment, um, if you're you're always welcome. We
Okay,
will.
all right.
But thank you for your time. I really appreciate giving me your time. I learned a lot, and it
Well, I
was
learned a lot too,
an
Emmanuel.
educational experience. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.